So the first screen that students will see is this welcome page. This page explains to them what the course is about, takes them through the objectives, directs them to the syllabus to get more information, and then takes them through the different modules. I've set this up so that they can hot link to each of the modules from this homepage so that they won't have to go through the modules any other way, but they certainly can if they want to. Let's go ahead and look at the syllabus. So the syllabus has been created to give them the course description, what the prerequisites are, the required textbook, the technology that's required, gives them an idea of how long it will take them to complete the training, and what the due dates are. The course structure, telling them it's on Canvas and how they go about using that. Course objectives again, and then the topic outline and schedule. This would have to be updated to be able to provide them with the dates that things are going to be due, but it at least gives the schedule of what to expect in which week. And then we go through the grading policy and how many points are available in each one of the exercises. And then what the late work policy is, how to view their grades, what the grades are based on in terms of percentages, what those mean. And then we go through the course policies where we cover participation, communicating with the instructor, and then how to go about completing their assignments. And then, of course, this does go through the course summary where they can tap on different assignments from here too if they want to. Let's go back to the home page and we'll navigate to Module 1. So Module 1, this is really an introduction. They will, by the end of this, be able to define what performance consulting is and what the 4 main factors are that affect individual and team performance. So we start out with a reading assignment that we have them do. And then we have some supplemental material here. So we start out with a video that takes them through SCOM, which is Skill, Knowledge, Opportunity, and Motivation. It's a nice short video that sort of explains all of that to them. And then we give them information about the Gilbert model. Now, the Gilbert model takes things and categorizes in 2 main categories, environmental or individual. And then it breaks it out further into 6 separate categories that has to do with performance. We want them to get an idea of the kinds of questions that they need to ask and how they go about probing for more information. So this kind of takes them through the rooted in environment or rooted in individual in each of the 6 categories to give them an idea or a launch point of the kinds of questions that they would be asking. And then finally, we have a performance consulting video that we have them review. Now, this is quite lengthy, but it has some really good information about how to craft questions, and I think it will prove to be quite useful for students. Then we have discussion that they have to be involved with. Now, discussions are designed in such a way that they have to be able to post prior to seeing anybody else's post. Because the idea is we want them to be able to think through the whole process and think through what they want to say without getting any prompts from anyone else. And then, of course, they have to respond to at least 2 other posts within the module. Then finally, we get to Module 2. Module 2, they're going to be able to list the stages of the performance consulting process, the responsibilities at each stage, and then they should be able to identify which model is being used in each of the scenarios that we provide them. And we give them a reading assignment to start. And then we take them through, we give them a graphic that sort of breaks down the engineering effective performance process, takes them from step 1 all the way to monitor and maintain. And then we take them through each individual step. So what each individual steps do is they provide them with the information that they need to know what particular types of activities are performed in each one of these steps so that they can begin to understand how to perform the performance consulting process. There's 10 steps. We'll just slide through these really quickly. And then they're given an opportunity to identify what particular method is being employed in different scenarios. So I've set this up so that what they'll do is they'll select the particular approach that they think is being represented here, and then they will explain what the response would have been appropriate given the situation. And so what we want them to do is talk about what they would have done differently and post that to the discussion. And then, of course, talk to 2 other posts while they're in there. There are 3 of these. Now, they're set up in such a way that there's really 3 different examples. There's one that really is straightforward training. There's another one that they should have employed performance consulting. And then there's another one where they did employ performance consulting. And then we get to Module 3. So this is where they're going to start putting the performance consulting process into practice. So by the end of this module, they'll be able to ask questions to get to the specifics of the issue and look at the problem holistically to understand the entire process. So we give them a reading assignment to do. And then we have a discussion. So this particular discussion takes them through what typically would be said to them by the business when they come in with a problem. It's very high level and doesn't provide a whole lot of detail. So what we want them to be able to do is craft the questions that they're going to ask of the business to be able to get to a better understanding of what's happening and why. So then in Module 4, what we do is we start moving through the consulting process using case studies that builds on what we just looked at. And so by the end of this module, they should be able to identify the steps of the performance consulting process and actually perform them. So we give them a reading assignment to do. We take them through and remind them of what the performance process looks like. And then we give them a discussion. Now, this case study is building on the one that they had worked with previously. But what this does is this provides them with a whole lot more information and assumes that they have spoken to employees, supervisors, all the different stakeholders that are involved in this particular process. And we ask them to go ahead and take the Gilbert worksheet and fill it out and upload it with their assignment. And then what we want them to do then is to read and respond to each of their classmates, 2 of their classmates. And then we have part 2 of that discussion. Part 2 of the discussion, we identify some problems that we saw in the previous exercise, and we ask them to go through the rest of the performance consulting steps, stopping just before they get to selecting the performance interventions, because we're going to do that in the next module. This is really a brainstorming exercise where we want people to get as many ideas down as they possibly can, because in the next step, we're going to start paring them down based on some criteria. So in Module 5, they'll be able to create the action plan based on the problems that have been identified. We take them through the performance consulting process once again, and then we talk about here's the things that we've already done and what we're going to do next. So step 7 is where they start to apply the criteria to all of the ideas that they had in the previous module. So they're going to take that information, they're going to weigh it up against all of these things, and create their action plan. So in order to select interventions, we've provided them with a budget because we want them to be able to think about how they're going to be able to justify the cost of their solution. So we want to see them to at least be able to explain that. And then we also are going to take them through the whole measuring success and monitoring the results. And what we ask them to do is take all of that information, put it in a post. This post is worth the most points as a single post of any of the ones that are in this course. So this is really kind of like the final exam. And then finally, we have the course evaluation. The course evaluation takes them through the information that's been provided to the student, the effectiveness of the information, evaluates the instructor, looks at the effectiveness of the assignments and the level of engagement experienced by students. They're also given the opportunity to leave open-ended feedback, describing those things that were most effective in the class and what could be done better to help facilitate learning in the course going forward. And then finally we have references. And that's the end of the course.